Welcome, everybody, to Talking Elite. We have a very special show planned for you guys tonight. Tonight we are going to be talking about a couple different things, but our first topic before we get into the drama that's been circulating around with wrestling, we're going to be talking about how we became All Elite. What got us into All Elite Wrestling at the very start of when we started watching it or started seeing the content they were putting out even before the show even kicked off. So it's going to be a very fun episode. You guys in the comments, make sure you guys leave your stories down below. Tell us what match at the very start was your favorite, what segments, what clips from being in the Elite. Tell us your story down below, and we'll have a reaction, and we'll read your comments on air. So it's going to be a very interactive episode today. So before we get jumping into our conversation, let me introduce you to my tag team partners. He is the Bully Ray of the All Elite Zone. Welcome at this time. Please welcome the Bearded Wonder, Adam.
Hello. Yes.
And
Bully Ray is my twin brother.
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately, Adam will be on site in his car right now. So fortunately, he will not have his picture, but he'll be here via phone. So thanks, Adam, for joining us. And then when Connor gets back, we'll welcome our producer. He is the X-Pac or the Spike Dudley, depending on how you want to go about it, of the All Elite Zone. That would be Connor. So that makes me Reverend Devon. So it's gonna be a fun show tonight. So while we're waiting for Connor, Adam. So what was your take on last night's episode? Did you have a chance to watch it yet?
I watched it live with you guys.
Oh yeah, duh. I'm so sorry. It was a slow day at work. So after being about 24 hours after the show, what is your take and your what is your take after that show? Like now that everything's kind of settled down.
I feel like that might have been so far the best Dynamite so far that I've seen. Even though like we're fresh into the 2023, it's still probably the best Dynamite show I've seen in a while. From start, as soon as the show started, you had Adam Page versus Moxley right off the bat, which I think was a good start to the show. But definitely the highlight of the show, spoiler alert, Adam Cole. And just having Adam Cole come back was just a highlight of that show last night.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I feel like that was, even though we didn't have Monet, a lot of people I know were upset about that. But to be honest with you, I'd rather have Adam Cole come back, and to know that he is 100% or close to being 100%, I for one cannot wait to see what he does next in AEW. Is he going to feud with the Elite? Because he can always join up with the Kingdom with Mike Bennett and friend of the show Matt Taven. So there's a lot of things that could happen with having Adam Cole back. I'm so glad that he is healthy because a lot of people were so upset about him getting injured and being very concerned. I have never heard, aside maybe from CM Punk, I have not heard a pop that loud for somebody. So I'm so glad that he had a welcoming response coming back. Of course, the Elite's ladder match last night was killer with Death Triangle. I wish it could have been a few more minutes because I feel like if it was a few more minutes, they could have, kind of stuck out the drama or, sold a little bit more with their moves. But you know what? It was a really great show. I feel like AEW has been on a roll lately. Even though fans are still mad about Monet's, stuff, I think the women did a great job last night. I thought that was actually one of my favorite matches on the card. Like everything last night hit almost on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome back, Connor.
Yes. My internet just shut off for a minute. Everything just went blank.
You're good, man. We were, like I said, we were just talking about last night's show. So, all right. So, All Elite Zone, we are of course all about All Elite, wrestling. We do talk about other topics, but we're mostly focused on AEW. I know for me, when I got started with the company, I was a huge fan of the Elite back in New Japan. I love their stuff on the Jericho Cruise. And I think for me, kind of what started off where it's like, oh shoot, you had you had their first pay-per-view that was, with Ring of Honor. That was an awesome like experience. I watched that one. That one was kind of like the starting point for AEW, and then to go into like the Jericho Cruise and having Y2 Jackson with that whole start of it. And then for me, what really kind of before they had their pep rally was when the contracts expired with New Japan, and you knew something big was going to happen with with what was coming up for the Elite. So let me ask you guys this. We can start with Adam. What was the first thing that you saw with AEW?
Well, I'll be totally honest with you guys. Much like one of my favorite pro wrestling broadcasters, Dave LaGreca, I am a huge Cody Rhodes mark. I love Cody Rhodes. I thought, out of a few gimmicks he had in WWE, I loved his style of wrestling. Obviously the legacy of his name. So when he left and, did his touring of, like Ring of Honor, New Japan, he did kind of like the independent scene. And then he came along and said, hey, we're starting this new company called AEW. I was hooked right away. I was like, oh God, this is awesome. Unfortunately with TV, I didn't have cable when AEW launched. So I didn't really catch on a lot of it until maybe the first pay-per-view I caught on, which was Double or Nothing, and that was the debut of Jon Moxley. And from there on out, I fell in love with it. I had left pro wrestling a while ago just because the other product wasn't doing it for me anymore. And then AEW comes along, and I kind of saw it, and I was like, okay, this is a really cool promotion. And then obviously COVID hit, and we didn't know how long that was going to last. But they were still doing it, not in front of a live crowd, but still they were still able to tell some stories, and I thought that was just a genius. So that was kind of my introduction to AEW.
Just real quick before I turn over to Connor with his first moments, during that COVID time, I have to admit, I even though they only had like a few wrestlers as like the crowd, or those first few shows when there was nobody there, I still felt like the wrestlers, especially Moxley and Hager with that street fight throughout the arena that they did, I feel like they found a good way to keep up the energy, even though it was, on their reports, really hard to do without having that clap and that crowd participation. But, on the other side, for people at home, like myself, my fiance, because I just got her in wrestling at that time, it was such a fun moment because we would make noise at home. And I've met a lot of other wrestling fans with me on that, where we still made we made the most of it. It was still a great time in AEW, and it sucks that there was no crowd to see some of the best moments in AEW wrestling. So like that was definitely a really cool, interesting turning point for AEW, where I still think they have decent momentum going with that. So Connor, what about you? What was what was your first moment or moments with AEW? Like, what got you hooked?
Well, it's gonna be we're gonna be here a while. So 2018. I'd say after WrestleMania, what was WrestleMania with Triple H and Seth Rollins? Was it 33, 32, 33?
Yeah, I think it was 30.
30, yeah.
I believe that was the last good WrestleMania. I feel like WWE was going in a good direction. They had to bring back the brand split. And I feel like after that WrestleMania, things went crazy. And I couldn't get into it anymore. I debated getting out of wrestling again for the second time in a row, as I did in 2011. I tried to get into Impact a little bit, but that kind of fizzled out. And then I believe it was October 2018 when the rumors were going out, Kenny, the Bucks, and Cody Rhodes' contracts are all expiring. Are they going to resign with New Japan? Are they going to WWE? They're going to stay with Ring of Honor. Like, what are they going to do? And no one caught this on, but I tagged Cody and the Bucks and Kenny about this, and I said, if you guys start your own wrestling promotion, it should be called All In Wrestling. No one noticed. No one noticed about it because no one was predicting that they would start their own promotion. I think Cody and Nick Jackson liked it. And then there were rumors at first. I believe it was Shad Khan, Jericho, and Jim Ross starting on wrestling promotion. But it was actually Tony Khan and all that. So then the rumors were going around, and I believe BTE January 1st, 2019 at midnight, I stayed up for BTE and watched what they were going to do. Ever since then, that night I've been a fan ever since, and I haven't looked back. Of course, there's been a lot of bumps in the road with in AEW here recently and no drama and stuff. But I haven't looked back. Not like I did on WWE, where like I was considered no longer being a wrestling fan. Like I could care less about wrestling anymore. AEW still has that specialness to it, because even though some things are questionable, it's still better than what WWE is doing. Should I continue? I don't want to take too much spot.
No. Like no, you're good. Like you're good. Like I said, I know I was very similar. Problem like with WWE with you. You like it was right after when they made Cody Stardust. And it just got a little wacky with that. Like I said, I was a huge Cody fan. I'm still a huge Cody fan. But it was just hard to see one of the best talents on that roster because I love Goldust, but when you have the Stardust thing and they could have made something special with it, but they just completely just made him so goofy. And then having, Brock Lesnar, your champion only show up to wrestle 4 times a year and rarely be on Raw. At least MJF, is on TV. I mean, he'll not be wrestling, every week or, once a month, but, you at least have a champion that's there. And I think that's kind of where a lot of my issues became.
That's the one thing with WWE. It seems like they always have a champion that's never there. They did it with Brock Lesnar. They did it with Goldberg. Now they're doing it for Roman Reigns again. It seems like always their world champion is a part-time champion. Then when they finally get it off of them, they do bad booking with it too. And then they'll bring in someone like, I don't know, Brock Lesnar. He'll hold it for 500 days and we won't see him. And we might see him one time and he might defend the title at, what was it, Great Balls of Fire. Then we don't see him again until SummerSlam.
I mean, I feel like that was their MO in WWE is they fall back on those guys because they are that brand name. They are those names. They're like, okay, our product's failing. Let's put the title back on these part-timers because they have that name to them. And like Connor, that was the way I felt too. I just couldn't watch the product anymore because you kept falling back on the same people holding that title instead of building these new stars. You look back at the Attitude Era, you had stars like The Rock, like Stone Cold, like Triple H, like The Undertaker, all these guys, Kurt Angle, that got built on the Attitude Era that basically like just that build themselves. And, nowadays you don't get that. You fall back to what which are, the Roman Reigns, the John Cena's, the Brock Lesnar's. And so that kind of steered me away from WWE for a while.
I think one thing that's kind of made me a little irritated too with WWE, and that's why I love that's like right towards the end because I fell in love with AJ Styles. Like AJ Styles, Shinsuke, where it was a different type of wrestling. And I think it almost reminded me, even when CM Punk was like, when he was there, like he was one of the ones that got me into wrestling. I'll admit that, like out front. And he had a different style than John Cena and guys like Roman Reigns now. He was different. And he kind of got me thinking like, okay, I heard AJ Styles, like he was in Bullet Club, and then like, okay, so I did a little research. And then when Cody went to, New Japan, that's when I started watching a lot more of the independent stuff. I went on like an independent binge for like months, just watching almost every match of Cody's, the Bucks. And I was just like, whoa, there is another world. Because I've heard of Impact Wrestling, but there's another world outside of the WWE bubble. And I think when it was AEW, when they capitalized on fans like us, I'll admit that, like I said, they're more for the hardcore audience and the casual fans. And I think for us, like I could gravitate towards like an independent star and have a more like one-on-one approach or like a more one-on-one connection than really than some of the wrestlers in WWE. Like, I feel like they're more for the fans, even with guys in AEW. You know, they're at least liking most of our stuff that we're tweeting out. You know, they're commenting, they're retweeting, they're having more of a connection, and that's kind of why I started drifting away from WWE and started going to the independent scene, and then going into with AEW. And like I remember like watching the first match. I had no idea who Kip Sabian or Sammy Guevara was. Right, I had no idea who these two were. I saw Sammy on the last press conference before their pay-per-view. I'm like, okay, let me see what these two kids have got. And I wish I could have watched it on a better eyes and know what I know now about these two athletes. I thought it was a really great match. It was a very independent work, but to see how far those two have came, especially Guevara, since, and even Kip, I gotta even throw Kip in there. He has one of the best wrestling characters going on right now. I hope they use him more. But going back and watching that first match of an AEW pay-per-view and just being blown away by two guys that busted their ass on the independent scene, I was blown away. I don't know about you guys, but that was like one of my first like impressions, at least when it came to what we were getting in store for AEW, and then how that evolved to where there's been some hit or misses, like Connor said, but where now it feels like there's so much that's improved on with the company. Of course, their visuals have gotten better, but they still have that main core where they have great long-term storytelling. Some of it may not be the best, but we have a lot of good storytelling mixed with a lot of the independent style that I fell in love with.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And actually going back, like I was familiar with Sammy back when he was in Lucha Underground. That's where I first discovered Sammy Guevara, and his style kind of fit that Lucha Underground. And so when I saw that he was part of AEW, I go, he's going to fit in very well with this promotion, especially if they keep that, that style of old school pro wrestling with the Lucha Libre and the high flying and just all these styles of pro wrestling combining. And I totally agree with you. I mean, you got the independent wrestling on a big stage now.
Yeah, like it's crazy to see, like, especially I feel like even though yes, our numbers have been down from where we first started, and we almost cracked a mil, last night, but I still feel like the product is like, at least we still have a good growing fan base. And like I said, with AEW, yes, it's not as big as Monday Night Raw is, and I know they've been going on for years. But the thing is, it doesn't take into consideration, the guys that have to DVR it. I bet a lot of people are still watching it, but we just don't see those numbers. And to have people come up to me, like where I work, I'll just use this as an example. I have people coming up to me talking about these new wrestlers, like, hey, have you heard of this guy? Heard of this guy? Have you heard of Jade? And it's just stuff like that. There's still a lot of good progression AEW is doing. I still have a lot of fun with it. Connor, what was that like? What was your first match, or what was one of your first matches that just took your breath away when you sat down and watched it and got you hooked as soon as you started watching that first match?
I don't know if the Road 2s count. The Double or Nothing Road 2, those are perfectly done. Like the way they built the Kip Sabian, the Sammy, the Darby, the Jungle Boy, they built everyone up just by little Road 2s to Double or Nothing. And I knew once I seen Kip Sabian, I knew he was going to be a big star in AEW. And I think the first match at Double or Nothing 2019 was the Casino Battle Royal, and I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never seen a Battle Royal like that. A lot of the guys that were in that aren't even in AEW right now, like Tommy Dreamer, Glacier, AC Romero, Dustin Thomas, a few others. But
they had a huge lineup for that.
Yeah, and then I remember Luchasaurus choke slamming George Janela in a table. Was it a stapler? All his weapons was something new as a fresh. Not the same old, just
not like a kendo stick, a chair.
Yeah, like it just got old. But the first time of AEW, definitely they proved that point with Moxley's debut. Was it Awesome Kong was there? I think in the women's match. But yeah, I'll probably say Kip Sabian and Sammy really. It was the first singles match that really it really showed that we were in store for something very better and different.
Mm-hmm.
AEW.
I think one of my favorite stories ever told in wrestling, and it's crazy that this build-up only had 2 videos, and that was between Cody and Dustin Rhodes. Like just the two vignettes they filmed, just how they're 2 different generations, and having like that story be told where, oh my gosh, I gotta buy this pay-per-view, gotta buy it now because I got to see 2 brothers that almost kind of mirror my relationship with my little brother at that time, where it kind of felt like we were separating. With especially that's how what Dustin was expressing, and Cody was expressing. And when that match just built up, when Cody came out, he broke, the throne, which I think is ironic now because look where he's at. But when he came out and broke the throne, like he was, this was the next generation. This time is now, and then having Dustin Rhodes come out, somebody that's been in WCW, WWE, TNA, like to have a legend like that come out and have that crowd response, and then having that story be told in the match where it was bloody. It was just like they were trying to outdo each other. I have never had a match make me cry, but that match, just because, like I said, it just hit so close to home with the story that they told in that ring, and have, Dustin be taken more seriously. That was something that I wish WWE would have done when they were doing, Cody and Dustin, when they were, as a tag team before the whole Stardust thing, and to actually see, their projection of what could have been, and to see it on, one of the best, in my opinion, it's still one of the best AEW pay-per-views out there. And to have, that moment, that match. I even had a great conversation when I met Cody Rhodes right before he went to WWE. And when I told him what that match meant to me, it was just so unreal, and how emotional he gets still talking about that match to this day. So like for me, that was like one of the best build-ups that you had in wrestling at that time. It's still probably one of the top 3 that's been in AEW, besides the Kenny and Hangman spot, or or with Young Bucks and FTR. Like it was one. It still holds up to this day. You can go back and watch it, and I think it's gonna be one of those matches. It's gonna be timeless. And I can't wait for people to go back in 10, 15, 20 years and watch that match.
Yep. I think that's the one match Jim Ross really got into. I think when the AEW first started, he really got into, like, he made that like, I think Earl Hebner was the referee and Jim Ross was the commentator. Just made it so much more special. And Jim Ross going off. What did he say? What kind of family is this, for Christ's sake?
Right. My God.
It just adds like that more emotion to it. In the blood, like, it was a breath of fresh air. Like, I didn't see that much blood in, I don't know, years, because WWE is afraid to bleed. And like that match was a breath of fresh air for an alternative to WWE.
Yeah, it was definitely a very special moment. Adam, for you, what about you? Like, what's another match that stood out to you, like, with those first few moments of AEW?
I mean, definitely the main event to crown the inaugural AEW World Champion. I mean, if I think back correctly, my head's all over. That was Jericho and Omega, correct? That was the main event. Because it was the same night that Moxley debuted. I mean, just having those 2 guys who not only, paved the way for their generation. I mean, look at someone like Chris Jericho, who's constantly reinventing himself year after year after year. And then you got someone like Kenny Omega, who made a name for himself in New Japan and just gained that notoriety as one of the best wrestlers in the world. In this generation. I mean, hell, they even told their story over there. Those 2 had a story over in New Japan, and just having them coming over to American television and telling that story for the inaugural AEW championship. and to this day, I still think they made the right choice by putting that title on Chris Jericho, because he is a generational wrestler. I mean, the guy's been around for so long since then. I mean, he's even been around longer than possibly Kenny Omega. And like, just having those two guys represent their generational group of professional wrestlers in that main event for the inaugural title, just to me, I knew, I was like, this is the catalyst. This is what AEW is going to be. This is going to be big time pro wrestling stars. You know, you're gonna have a lot of good the roster of guys that came independently that know how to put on performances. I mean, and just the announce team, just seeing the whole team come together, and just the end of that pay-per-view of seeing Moxley standing on the chips. I'm just like, wow, okay, yeah, this is for real. So I mean, that main event though, I mean, those two guys putting on a show of, you know, just back and forth, near falls, all this stuff. And it was just a great main event for the first pay-per-view. So I mean, from that, and then also going back to the Cody Dustin match, you know, that match was emotional, but damn it, the emotional post-match, you know, when Cody asks him, I want to wrestle the Young Bucks, but I need my brother. Like, it's just right there, just a tear from my eye. I'm like, dude, that is just raw emotion right there. So, I mean, between those two matches, those definitely were the two standouts for me that really caught my eye with AEW.
You know, like, it was just one of those nights that, you know, we didn't know. We heard rumors that, you know, Dean Ambrose, you know, Jon Moxley was going to be, he was going to be, you know, debuting for AEW. And a lot of us, you know, I didn't know who he was outside of the WWE. I watched maybe a couple, like, you know, specials on him, watched a couple like videos aside from on YouTube to see where he came from. But, you know, that time he was at really that one of those first big names that jumped over from WWE to AEW. And especially following that you know, that podcast right after he did with Jericho and explaining his frustrations to, you know, him becoming one of the best world champions and having probably one of the best, you know, he's had probably the best storylines and most consistently booked, you know, AEW wrestlers, you know, on that roster today. You know, he's still happy, still putting on those great matches. Yes, you know, he's bleeding a little bit more than he probably should, and Renee's probably going to kill him. But, you know, he's that night, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is actually happening. Like, this is for real. It's not a work in WWE like everybody was saying was going to be a work, because apparently everything in wrestling is a work. But to have him come up, you know, do, you know, the Death Rider, you know, on top of, you know, the poker chips to Kenny Omega, you know, that was just, it was very special and a great way to, you know, close off the show, you know, and lead into, you know, Fyter Fest, and then lead into your actual, you know, episodic TV. And then have that feud with Kenny Omega where, you know, Kenny Omega, you know, went through that glass table, you know, on the first episode of Dynamite. You know, to see stuff like that, you know, it was just eye-opening, and it was a fresh air. And, you know, you have the whole story with, you know, Hangman and, you know, Jericho, you know, when you had that, you know, for the first ever AEW championship, and then having that, just that great build, and everybody wanted Hangman, but then that started that 2-year storytelling of him leaving the Elite, you know, winning, you know, him and Kenny winning the tag titles, Kenny and Hangman splitting up, and then having this great story of him finally winning that championship. And, you know, yeah, his reign wasn't the best, but when I look back, Hangman, you know, he's one of the ones that had probably the best long-term, you know, term storytelling in modern day wrestling.
No, and I agree, and like I said, yeah, I gotta go back because that was my bad. It was Hangman and Chris Jericho. I could have sworn it was Kenny Omega. I don't know. Kenny Omega's just all over the place in AEW, so I'm just like, I thought it was Omega, because I mean, he's just everywhere on that product. I mean, so yeah, no, definitely, and yeah, that storyline, that 2-year build for Hangman. I mean, having that moment finally dethroning Omega and winning that title after the story they had. You know, and like you said, it wasn't the best reign, but I mean, he still put on some phenomenal, you know, matches against some good competitors. You know, his match against Dante Martin on Dynamite was a hell of a match. I thoroughly enjoyed that match. I mean, even his feud with Adam Cole, I enjoyed that feud. So I mean, it's just, you just get so emotionally attached to these storylines, and you just want to see it go up and up and get better and better every week with the product.
Yeah, like I still feel like that first couple of years, like I feel like every episode was 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Of course, every once in a while you're gonna run into times like now where even WWE, ECW, WCW have their lows like this, and I think AEW will get out of that. Connor, going back, what was your emotions and your excitement for that first match with Cody and Sammy Guevara?
That was the first Dynamite. I didn't know what to expect because everyone started saying that their shows before TV was going to be very different from their TV matches. It wasn't different at all. It was just even better. They put on a heck of a match. I actually thought Sammy was going to win that match for a minute. And then at the they shook hands after the match. And then at the end of the show, Sammy comes out and kicks Cody down low. And then we got the inner circle thing. But I didn't know what to expect with Sammy and Cody because Sammy had only had about maybe one or two matches of singles. As Adam said, I knew Sammy from AAA and Lucha Underground before AEW in his vlogs stuff. That first match was Sammy and Cody, and they, to this day, they carried over other good matches. Their ladder match at Beach Break, it was on Rampage when Cody beat Sammy. They put on so many good matches together, Cody and Sammy. That was a very great match with Sammy and Cody. All the matches that they've had in AEW, and that first one really topped it off with all the ones that they, all the next ones that they had.
Yeah, it was. I remember that whole night. It was just such a fun show. One of my favorite moments, and I'm gonna get to Adam here in a second. But one of my other favorite moments was the upset, and this one I'm still surprised with. And I wish they would do more with these guys. But Private Party, when the Young Bucks beat Private Party in that tag, that tag tournament, I was so shocked on that because you had the Young Bucks, at that time they were red hot still, and everybody wanted them to be the first, tag champions. But I can kind of see where they're going because with them being the EVPs of AEW, they don't want to have the titles right away. They want to let some fresh blood have it. And for me, like just watching that that match, I've never seen a Private Party at all. I was just blown away by their performance in that match, and I still feel like they could bring that fire back to where they were. And I thought they would be one of the ones that we'd be talking about today as either AEW tag champions, or would be talking about banger after banger matches. But it feels like they've been a little stale since that match, and since then it just doesn't feel like everything with the Andrade family office, the Hardy family office, they kind of disappeared a little bit before. They were all mostly on Dark Elevation, and that to me, that was kind of one of the things that I still am upset about because I feel like these two guys still have something that they could offer. They have one of the coolest, tag team finishes with that silly string.
I think it was during the pandemic when they kind of changed them and they changed their theme music. The first theme song was perfectly fine. Then they go to this something.
Shots.
I feel like they were changed. Which before the pandemic they were red hot. What was the match? Was that Bash at the Beach? It was. Oh man. 2020. I believe it was the Young Bucks, Santana and Ortiz, Private Party, and SCU for the tag titles. I thought Private Party was going to win that. Private Party put on a lot of good matches in 2019 and 2020 before the pandemic. Them against the Lucha Bros. Them they put on a lot of good matches. And when the pandemic happened, they weren't able to use them much. Then when they came back, they kind of changed them. Then the Acclaim came in. It looks like they took their spot. In some sense, like they replaced them in that type of spot, which it felt like. I'd say Top Flight and the Acclaim, like they took a lot of tag team spot that would have already been champions. If the pandemic never would have happened, I don't think they would have gotten signed. A lot of people wouldn't have gotten signed, like Sean Dean. A lot of people wouldn't have gotten signed, but
Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, I think some would have still gotten signed, like Matt Hardy, Brody Lee, Miro. I think Ethan Page and a few others. Ricky Starks probably would have still gotten signed. But yeah, I like this comment. I missed the OG Private Party. Yeah,
Yes,
I want the original Private Party back. Where like they would have the what was it, the VIP thing, then they would
that was like the VIP rope and the bouncer.
And it's a private party. No, it's private.
Party, let's get it started. It's a private party.
And now we're
dude,
back,
that song was so torn up. Like I loved it. Like I wish if they only would have came along like 10 more years earlier, they would have been like a huge hit.
And now we're back to Hardy Party.
Hardy Party.
Because right now it is pretty entertaining right now. I think Mark Quinn's injured again.
Yeah.
But he's had a lot of back issues. But with on Dark Elevation, if anyone hasn't watched, Matt Hardy, Ethan Page, and Isaiah Cassidy, oh my god,
it's probably my favorite. Like, I wish they would bring that to like actual like Dynamite or Rampage.
Yeah, like
that. Like, because I was there like Winter is Coming when they filmed the Elevation before that, and here Ethan Page in the middle of the match, just talking and just being just an obnoxious prick on the mic. Was just like it's one of my favorite acts. I wish they would definitely I wish they would bring it to Dynamite because I feel like it would be over and I feel like people would enjoy it even more.
Yeah, like this story's been mainly on Dark and they've like this has been a very good feud for it to not be on TV. I would maybe take a Jericho or two segments out and put that in the Dynamite. It's a very good story. Maybe put it on Rampage. That's why you got two shows to focus more on, but this story I don't know where it's going to go, but I think Matt Hardy has something in mind because that backstage promo he all of a sudden he started to agree with Ethan Page, and then he winked into the camera. I don't know what he's got planned, but it's not going to end well for Ethan Page.
I feel like they're going to probably do a buy-in or 0 hour match at Revolution. I think that's going to lead into something on the main roster or Dynamite and have like Broken Matt Hardy come back.
Like I want to see the Broken Party, kind of like a new like Matt Hardy's Gangrel, and then the Hardys are Private Party.
The Brood. And them.
The Broken Party would be pretty good because not knowing when Justin
dude, that's legit. I like that. Like you should you shouldn't trademark that because Tony might need that, but. I think you need to email Mr. Tony Khan there and tell him this great idea because Broken Party. I think that would bring Private Party. I feel like that'd give him more characteristic. I feel like that was something that they've kind of lacked in a little bit.
Matt Hardy
is that character?
Party. I think them three would be great trios champions. And I want to see Matt Hardy hold some type of gold before he retires in AEW. I don't care if it's just like I know him and Jeff was probably going to win those tag titles, which I'm kind of glad they didn't because if they did wrestle that match, Jeff Hardy may be in a wheelchair right now.
Probably.
But I want Jeff Hardy to hold some type of gold in AEW because he's really from Full Gear or All Out. Was it? He felt that thing, and I don't think he's been the same ever since then. I don't think he's truly recovered from that. But Matt Hardy's entire career has put it all out on the line. Only just one comment. The Coug.
Oh, really?
I was there live last night.
The
crowd was so.
The Coug!
Could not hear myself think. AEW is so surreal. Just fans of wrestling, lucha, having a ball. That was great. Last night was a great show. It was probably even better like being there at the show last night.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but if nobody knows, the Coug joined us. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. He's the guy who knows everything about the old school territories and everything. The guy has
Yes.
so much good knowledge of professional wrestling. And I, Coog, thank you for joining us, man. I your take on professional wrestling, it really makes me feel good. I'm just like, man, someone that knows old school wrestling, from the territory days.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure. And then go up to Mike. Oh, sorry, hold on a second.
Samples fans like their Sunday church service listening to our ceremony. Media friends are yelling so loud like they're at the World Soccer. That's comment of the night right there.
Yes, that is
that's
great.
different.
That's a good. I like that. Like I said, Coog, it's always good to have you, man. It's been a pleasure. Go up. There's a comment I want to touch on real quick. That Mike posted about. I'm gonna ask this to you guys as well, and hopefully you can give us an answer. But Mike asked, "Do you know who originally was supposed to debut on the first episode of Dynamite?"
I do.
Was it supposed to be Marty Scurll?
No.
Or who was it supposed to be?
It was gonna be something. If it happened, it was gonna be the Elite versus Bullet Club. It's supposed to be AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson.
What? No way.
But AJ decided to sign back, and Gallows and Anderson signed him back, and it didn't happen. But even AJ said it that was supposed to be that's who they were going to go with. AJ and Gallows and Anderson attacking the Elite. Then they changed it up in Inner Circle. Because in the Inner Circle, the Lucha Bros were originally going to be in the Inner Circle. Santana Ortiz wasn't going to be in it. It was going to be Jericho, Lucha Bros. I'd have been a turn of events, but I think it was AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson. That's who it was going to be, and they were going to attack, and they were going to cause Kenny and the Bucks to match, and those two were going to be the ones having that brawl. What if that happened?
I know that's crazy to think that.
Yeah, I mean the Bullet Club versus the Elite. I mean, definitely would have been just explosive match on the first Dynamite.
I could be wrong, but I think that was it because AJ Styles even talked about that's what was supposed to happen.
Yeah, if you're still on here, Mike, leave a comment below if we were correct, because that would have been a huge game changer. Well, AEW's been a huge game changing already, but to have Styles and Gallows and Anderson, I'm glad we still got them for that brief little time. That was the only good thing with partnering with Impact for that little bit of time frame, besides, maybe a little bit with Kenny Omega and Christian. But yeah, I feel like that would have been, especially with AJ Styles, I still feel like there's times where I feel like he's been wasted in WWE, but man's making good money and he can drive comfortably with, a bus, and doesn't have to put his body on the line as much. Hope he's happy, but that would have been a huge moment in.
Yes, it was AJ and the Good Brothers.
Yeah, so David did confirm it. Cool. Adam, for you. Oh, sorry.
In the mid 1970s, before I watched in the early 80s U.S. territory days.
God,
wow.
No, we said it before. You're educated in professional wrestling. You're educated.
You're experienced and educated. You're not old. You're experienced, educated.
You're experienced and educated.
Us young guys, a history lesson that's not being yelled at by Jim Cornette. That's terrible. It's just like I said. It's just been a crazy. It's been a crazy week just of toxicity. So it's last night's AEW Dynamite. It was just really it was just refreshing to watch. Adam, for you, what match from that first show, if you can remember, what was that one match or that segment from that first show that had you hooked?
Oh God, you know what? I'll be totally honest. I think I missed that first Dynamite show. I'll be totally honest. I think I missed it. But I mean, obviously the one thing I remember, and it sucked because it was during, the COVID where there was no crowds, and just the imagine of the reaction of a crowd when Brody Lee debuted in AEW. I can only imagine what that debut would have felt like if there was people actually in the crowd that saw that happen. Because, I thought he was great as Luke Harper in WWE. I think he was. I mean, I could have done away with the Bludgeon Brothers name, but him and Eric Rowan together, they could have gone by another tag team name. But I mean, I loved Brody Lee, and when he debuted as the Exalted One in Dark Order, I can only imagine what a live crowd would have been reacting wise when he debuted. On top of that, the same time. With the COVID is Miro debuting as the best man. That like that sends shockwaves to me. I was like, holy crap, is that? I was like, that's Rusev, but it's Miro now. Okay, gotcha. But I mean, just some of those earlier on signees during the COVID, like Connor said, if COVID didn't happen, you might not got of any of these people to sign with AEW. And I tell you, one person I was glad they signed during the COVID was Ethan Page, because I enjoyed his tag team with Alexander and Impact when they were the North. I thought they were a hell of a tag team in Impact and the North, you know. And honestly, when he came to AEW, I was like, dude, Ethan Page is going to be a solid solo wrestler. He's going to be a solid singles competitor, and it is a shocker that he has not won a single title yet in AEW. And I'm waiting for that day that he actually wins a title.
He's got that TNT written all over him. They could win it.
He would also have that heel like Joe had with it. I agree with you on that, Connor. Like I said, the guy knows how to talk. He's over with the fans. You know, he's a giant nerd and has, you know, the toy vlogs. You know, he's over with the fans and plays that really good, fun heel that you can love. And hopefully soon we'll get him.
You know, Ethan Page wrestled the Phenomenal. Well, he wrestled. I don't know. How do I put it? The Wee Nominal one.
The Wee Nominal one. Yes.
I was
that match was great.
Like AJ Styles music started playing, and I was like, what the heck is really gonna then little miniature AJ comes out.
We need to do a watch along of that. Like, we need like a wacky matches at 2.
I mean, I love the independent like shows that they have like at like little like arena stuff, like conventions. They'll have like that wrestling stuff going on.
Yeah.
And there was one that I found on YouTube. It was Ethan Page, Danhausen, and one other person in a triple threat match. I can't remember who the third person was, but it was such a good triple threat match. And like Ethan Page was basically dominating it. And then Danhausen came back. And then I keep forgetting who that third guy was. If anybody knows what match I'm talking about, what convention it was, comment down below. But I watched it on YouTube. It was like a 10-minute match. But then like everybody thought, oh, Danhausen's going to win. And then here's Ethan Page stealing the win. And like, for some reason, I like those more like close, intimate, like convention wrestling matches. Like, because you got those stars that are like, yeah, no, we'll do this. And like, I think Egon, which is what Danhausen calls him, I think those two together, I think that is such a great pairing.
Yeah, it's very fun. I would love to see that played back again, or another feud. Anything with Danhausen's entertaining.
Blue Demon. I haven't heard that name in a while.
Ooh, El Santo. El Santo was also very famous for doing movies as well. El Santo was a wrestling actor.
Really?
Yeah, El Santo did a lot of like movies back in the day. One of his most infamous or famous, whatever, was I think it was Samson versus the Vampire Women, and it was El Santo. And I was just like, wait, that's El Santo. What is he doing fighting vampire women?
You sound about the same as me. I got out of WWE in 2011. It was right when Brock Lesnar came back. And I got back into WWE when Brock Lesnar was still there, which is weird. But yeah, it was the same year as me. I got out of wrestling.
Yeah. I think
I was only 11 years old, 10 or 11, and I was done with it. I never looked back.
You're so young, Connor. So young.
I never looked back either.
One thing that I have to admit with the Cubes comment, I'm sorry. Good.
What was that?
Sorry, you were cutting out my end. I didn't see you were talking. My apologies. Sorry, continue. My apologies.
No, I wasn't saying it. I wasn't.
Oh, okay. I just liked his comment because he was mentioning that. So, and I totally forgot about this. but having Rio Nyla Rose for that first women's inaugural championship, that is kind of a very underrated match, and a lot of people had a problem with Rio, her being one of the champions just because of her size, but I think she brought something that was different that we haven't seen. We didn't even see like anything like her really in WWE. Like we had Asuka, but you didn't have that. So to have two women like with Nyla Rose, especially, she's been almost. I think she as like the gatekeeper of that women's championship. I feel like everybody has to go through her before they become an official world champion. So I'm just waiting for Hayter to go against her. But yeah it feels like.
She gets a shot at everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah, she gets a shot every time, it seems like.
Yeah, it's fun. Crazy how like she has had another fun career since the start. Sorry, Adam, what'd you say?
Oh no, I was definitely agreeing with you. It's kind of like that. I mean, because you got because now it's kind of blown up is now, New Japan or Japan Wrestling is now getting the females more involved down their area, and now you were seeing that in AEW. You weren't seeing many New Japan female wrestlers in WWE. No. Maybe mostly Asuka, and I mean, but I couldn't remember a lot of other ones. But AEW brought in a lot from Japan, from a female pro wrestler from New Japan. You had Rio, you had Shida. I mean, you had all these females that people got introduced to it. And I think that was the coolest thing in the earlier days. And even now, the whole Tony Khan, not only being that booker, but also being still that fan of wrestling all over the place, and him understanding, hey, this is New Japan. Like these females are awesome. They have awesome matches over there. Let's introduce that to American audiences. And I think that's why I think that match was so good. Because you had this little New Japan pro wrestler against this giant female who just beats the hell out of people. So I think that's why it was such an underrated match.
I think it was. I think it worked for a little bit, and then once Britt Baker won the title, it went to a whole new level, the women's division. And this is to the. Do you know who originally was going to be in the women's title match, the first Dynamite? If they wouldn't have left, it was going to be Britt Baker versus Kylie Rae for the AEW women's.
Yeah, Kylie Rae would have been a good one.
Kylie Rae, yeah.
She was supposed to.
She's only retired like 4 times.
Yeah, it's sad that she keeps retiring and stuff. She would have been AEW champion by now. Like, imagine how far the women's division would have already been.
Well, she had that almost like that appeal that Bayley had when she was face. She I think she could have connected to the audience and had that same glow and that same baby face personality that would draw kids in. But unfortunately, with her mental health, which I applaud her for taking a break, but she's kind of done it with every major company from Impact to AEW. So with her, I don't know if she officially signed with WWE or what's going on there, but she was on Superstars or Main Event or whatever they want to call it.
I think it was Main Event, but she was going by a different name, and she wrestled Dana Brooke, because I actually watched that match online. And so, I mean, I don't know if she's going to fully go 100% with WWE, like you said, especially with her mental health.
I will say, I hope she makes her decision there, because WWE is not, like, Impact and AEW was nice enough to give her a release, but WWE is not the type of promotion that will give you your release soon like they do. WWE will make you write out your contract like they're doing with Mustafa Ali. He doesn't want to be there. He's said that many times, and that they won't release him. And I would hate for her to go there and be miserable, stuck there and can't leave. That would be.
Well, I guess it's sad.
Whiskey Lucha stock with undersized, but with the Heart of Champion, I connected for instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. That she does that. Yeah. Yakazaki, I forgot about her. Shida is amazing. Yamashita, holy cow. And then,
you know you're wrestling for sure.
I know
I was. This is off subject, but I was at a was a indie wrestling show, and my friend that well, he's dead now. His name was Kevin Conley. He died around the pandemic. We were talking and talking about wrestling and stuff, and I started naming off wrestlers that I shouldn't even know. He said, well, like this one other guy was listening to our conversation. He said, like, he told you those guys, didn't you? And he said, no, I know these guys like Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales, Don Morocco, Buddy Rogers, Alan Koloff. And like, I was like 16, 17 and me knowing all these people.
See, that's what I wish I would have done.
I mean, that's not uncommon for someone who, with pro wrestling. I mean, it's that honoring of the old school guys that kind of came before everybody. Like you said, the Buddy Rogers, the Bruno Sammartinos, the Luthez and all of them. Like, they're the ones who basically paved the way. And these guys were putting on storylines before storylines were even storylines. It's like, I mean, you look at the storylines today compared to what they had there. Like, it was common. Like, it was just, you had a good guy, you had a bad guy. They're fighting. Yeah. That's it. That was it. That was the storylines back then. Now you got like intertwined with other storylines, and then you got the cheap crap that WWE does with, let's have these two superstars fall in love. What the hell? This is not a soap opera. Like, it's
love triangle.
Like, it's just like, just have them go in the ring and wrestle. Yeah. And that's what I love about AEW. And you saw it in last night's show. You barely had any talking segments. You had a lot of in-ring action. And I think that's why last night's show was so good.
It felt like a Dynamite of old when there wasn't a lot of talking. There's a few good segments, but most of it was sold in the ring. You had a good promo from MJF that, of course, is gonna bring in viewers, especially when he attacked Freddy from Scooby-Doo and Dr. Chow. Like, I hate Dr. Chow. I hate Ken. I I respect him as a guy, but as an actor, I cannot stand him at all. I think he's too over the top. That's coming from a wrestling fan. And I was so glad he got destroyed by MJF last night. I watched that whole segment back like 3 times today, and I still laugh. I'm still enjoying it.
Well, I feel like every movie Ken Jeong is in, he plays the same character. Like, yeah. It's ridiculous. It's like, can we change the character up a little bit, please? Like, that's just what I felt.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I felt like, especially like I didn't like. That's why I never watched The Masked Singer. He's pushed me away from The Masked Singer. It was just that bad. He's like him and Pat McAfee. Like, for some reason, those two people, I cannot. I get a lot of people like their enthusiasm, and I'm an enthusiastic person, but I at least know when to tone it down a little bit. And those two, I just they're too annoying to me. And I hope we could do a whole podcast on why I hate Pat McAfee as a commentator. Respect him as a guy, but hate him because I was trying to watch, the Frogs and Alabama game, and I had to turn it off. Me and my mom were trying to watch it, and Pat McAfee was just a complete head to Tim Tebow and just being a complete D-head the whole time. He literally sounded like he had Vince McMahon's head right up his ass. Like, that's how bad it was still. Like, it still sounded like Vince was in his ear. And I just was like, oh gosh. Like, I know we're getting off topic here, but yeah.
I will say one thing that I thoroughly enjoyed about Pat McAfee on SmackDown, though, was his dancing to Shinsuke Nakamura's music. That was the only highlight I enjoyed from Pat McAfee. Everything else, he just blew everything out of proportion. But anytime Shinsuke came out and you just see Pat on the desk rocking out, you're like, okay, that's kind of funny. But that was the only highlight.
Yeah, like I said, I give you that. That was a lot of fun, but because it was on Busted Open constantly with that. Oh my god! And I'm like, guys, Busted Open, Mark Henry, stop! Don't encourage this. Like, this is bad. Like, I love Busted Open, and me and Adam will talk Busted Open all day if we got.
Oh,
if we have a
absolutely,
chance.
yeah.
But I was like that episode, like, because I listen to the podcast version right now, and I was like, just stop, please, just stop. Like it's not funny. I don't get it. like that's like where like why stop. Like I said, that's why we're here in AEW, because I don't see Jim Ross being that dumb and crazy, and Excalibur, and poor Excalibur, because the only thing I don't like about, I feel bad for him. I don't hate it about him, but having to spit off the whole Rampage card and AEW Dynamite card like that. Oh man.
Elvis Presley's daughter just passed away.
I read that today.
No.
That she was rushed to the hospital with a cardiac.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry I'm sorry to hear that.
Good chance. Watch the Destroyer match in Japan on YouTube, and Mascara's
made his entrance. Japanese fans picked him up. Really? They picked him up and carried him to the ring? Wow.
Japanese fans so passionate all the U.S. who respect the history of pro wrestling.
I feel like that's the hard part.
Georgia, Mid-South, World Class, Houston, South, Mid-Atlantic, and AWA every weekend. Those were the golden days.
AWA, yeah.
Yeah. I wish we could go back and live those
Junkyard
days.
Dog. I love the Junkyard Dog.
I'd say if they're on YouTube, Connor, and I know this is a big request, but when we do watch-alongs possibly on like a Monday, do you think maybe one of these Mondays we could do a watch-along of old school territory matches? Like, I think that would be. I mean, it would also introduce like people that are like AEW fans to old school territories.
That would be really, really.
Did
cool.
you guys? I remember when I got COVID, when I was under quarantine for it. My buddy Laramie, he's one of my good friends. We would talk wrestling all the time because we worked together.
Wait, Larry?
But his name is Laramie. He's a friend of mine that we used to work together, and he sends me this match, and this one would be a fun one to watch along. But to see Kerry Von Erich versus Ric Flair in a steel cage, that was one of my favorite. I think it was for AWA. I can't remember. It was one of the. And I'm a little short. I can't remember which one it was, but to see the fans' reaction during that match, have all the girls go crazy over, Kerry Von Erich, like that was a whole other level of wrestling, like fandom right there. You didn't have the dirt sheets. Everybody was just enjoying wrestling. And I miss that. I want that reaction. Just to watch that. There was no toxicity with the fans. Of course they're going to cheer for Von Erich, but just Flair played off, and of course he oversold everything in that match, but it was a great cage match. I know it wasn't high flying like today's wrestling is, but that was like one of my first like classic matches that wasn't, a WWF match, So I think that'd be a cool idea, Adam. I think we need to do a watch along on here on our watch along days, because I think that'd be fun. Because I think we could each like add to the playlist, maybe add like 2 matches a piece and just do it and go.
Absolutely. I think it just you choose which territory you want to see matches from, and you just add them to the playlist and just go from there, and we just watch them. Like I would love to find the some of the, and even territories that Cougar talk about, like maybe we could find that Mascaras and Destroyer match and put it on there. And we can watch it,
Yeah. So
Kerry Von Erich was mauled by the females all the way to the ring. Kerry could have been.
Won't see that anymore.
Oh, they loved him. I mean, I loved that episode of Dark Side of the Ring when they talked about the Van Erichs. That just kind of. That actually tore me up a little bit. I'm just like, you lose so many family members because of that, from that. And you're just like, good Lord. Yeah. It's just like, but all the reactions, every single one of those Van Erichs, I mean, especially in Texas, anytime they went to Texas, I mean, that was where they were billed from, the Texas crowd loved them.
up and going back, look at the Freebirds, the Freebirds and Von Erich feud that they had, like that's something that I wish I'm doing more research and doing more and actually going back and watching some of these matches, because to see the reaction and see how much the passion the fans were during, especially with anytime the Von Erichs and the Freebirds were in the ring together. Oh my gosh. I wish I could have been there to see that. But of course, I'm only 25, almost 26. So I didn't have a chance to live through some of the glory days like that. But man, just to go back and watch some of those matches and moments, even going back and watching the studio version of WCW and watching some of the old NWA matches, I'm like, wow, there is so much that I feel like we need to bring some of these, some of these storytelling ideas back, or some of these ideas with characters. Look what everything happened, with Cactus Jack, and what was my fun moments in WCW was Cactus Jack and having him go against Brian Pillman. The story was it was in the middle of him, with Pillman and Austin splitting. Man, just there's so many great wrestling matches we could watch, and we could literally do a decade, a decade a month, and still go through so many different matches. Oh man. So, well, we had a really good podcast with talking about what made us elite. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening to the comments, and thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. Now,
Blaine,
before we get,
since this is your show, I'm going to let you answer this.
Love Chris. He's really a lot of fun with the watch-alongs. Right now, we're just doing us three for the Talking Elite. It's just kind of like our show, nothing against Chris. So one of these days, we would like to have him on here. Maybe here in the next couple of weeks we will. But as of right now, he's more with the watch-along crowd. So sorry, David, but he will, like I said. But this is kind of like our trio show. So it's kind of hard to explain. I'm sorry. I really don't know the full details on that, but yeah, I'm sorry. It's not the best answer.
No, but even with the watch-alongs, we enjoy doing the watch-alongs with Chris and everything. So
yeah,
I mean, gets really into it. So I mean, yeah. So, but like Lane said, this thing right now, with us three, it's just really easier for all of us to do it right now at this time. And that, like Lane, we just don't know, the story and pretty much how to explain it further.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I said, we'll try to have Chris on in the next little bit to do watch-alongs. Other than that, let's get into the controversial segment, because I think we have to talk about this just because it's been everywhere the last few days, and I want to hear your guys' take on this. So, if you guys have been living under a rock, you guys know that Vince McMahon came back because money and being the main shareholder. Having him come back and now be the chairman again in AEW. Stephanie McMahon stepping down. Nick Khan is now the CEO of WWE, and rumors that they are being sold, which I think they've confirmed they're being sold, but they're going through different. Basically, they're going through different options. So the one that let's get the monkey out of the way first. Tony Khan and Sher Khan and an anonymous backer has apparently, and this also has shrunk from Tony's comment, he's keeping a close eye on the selling of WWE. This is I think the most unlikeliest one to happen, but how would you guys feel? I know Connor's opinions to this, and I cannot wait for him to discuss this. How would you guys feel? How would you guys feel if Tony Khan bought WWE and had a monopoly with wrestling for the most part?
Well, listen, it is a weird time to be a wrestling fan right now, just because with that story coming along. And listen, I don't know how I feel about Vince coming back, especially surrounding the whole allegations against him and all that stuff. And even though he is the shareholder, it's also that tug of war with power. Because I know for a fact Vince doesn't want anyone telling him what to do. Vince wants to tell other people what to do. I mean, that's just how Vince has been. I mean, if you like Lane, you and I can talk about it again, like for hours. They explain it on Busted Open about, and those guys that have been on that that are on that show worked for Vince, so they saw it firsthand.
Oh God.
But as far as selling the company, here's the issue. I don't think it's something Tony and Shad Khan would do.
Okay,
Simply because Vince wouldn't allow it. I don't think.
I may have some new news on this.
What?
I'm just saying that
Khan family has. This is by Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer. The Khan family has interest in merging AEW and WWE. Khan's open to Vince McMahon having a role in the company.
Okay, I don't. Dave Meltzer is one of those guys that you're like, oh, this guy said he can juggle 3 balloons and he only juggles 1. That anything Dave Meltzer says, I don't believe worth crap. I think he's one of the worst wrestling journalists I've ever heard or read any of his pieces. Just because of it, because most of the time it's wrong, and so that's something that I can't even trust in. But like I said, I think right now there's a lot of good options for WWE outside of not some. Because listen, Tony Khan already owns Ring of Honor and AEW. He's already got a loaded rosters on both. To take that and then bring Vince McMahon over, all you're doing is basically you're taking the wrestling world and basically telling every other independent program, which we enjoy. We all said Impact's. We like Impact Wrestling. All those people are happy there. You got what is it? MLW. You got all these independent ones, and then it's basically saying, well, look, AEW and WWE are not one company. Come wrestle for us. Well, now you got a huge roster on both things, and you're going to have wrestlers lost in the shuffle.
Oh,
and so I just can't see Tony Khan going in on it. I can see some of the other network companies going in, like they've been talking about Disney, they've been talking about Comcast, they've been talking about Viacom. I think like these are some of the companies. The one thing I think is the worst. I can go on this for hours because I've been following, back when it was WWF, and I was just the only thing I can say that will ruin the WWE is if they sell to the Saudis investment company. That would be the worst decision they would make. Solely based on talent, because there's a lot of talent that what I've been reading saying they will walk if Saudis buy it, because some of the talent have these religious beliefs, and then you also got the female wrestlers on the roster that, I mean, if we know anything political, which we shouldn't get into, Saudis have an issue with women. So it's like, it would be a nightmare, but I don't see Tony Khan and Shad Khan buying WWE, and just mainly because that's a lot of money to put into that company.
Well, and it's like I said, it's crazy because I thought it was a done deal with Saudi. I really there were a lot of reports coming out about that. Like I swear that was all I saw on Twitter, Facebook, all day yesterday on YouTube. That's all I saw, and I've listened to a couple of reports with the whole Tony Khan thing, and that's why I said I don't think it's going to happen. Connor had my favorite response for this. Connor, what is your take on a Tony Khan and a Khans by WWE?
Well, now it just went to a higher the bar. Just reading that, merging them both together, like AEW will be the past 3-4 years will be pointless now. Just gonna merge them together.
It'd be a waste.
Yeah, that all this time, these last 3-4 years, it would have been for nothing, just to merge.
Think about it. If Vince is in charge, of course he's going to bury AEW. Like, he is a very sore loser. Look what he did in most of WCW.
Yeah, he wants. I feel like if they did that, it would be one company again, one major company. But now it's two companies together. Like, there's not going to be much choices for wrestlers anymore. Because merging them, that means I don't know how they do that, but no one would get used. And no
Basically,
Ring of Honor.
AEW and Rampage would be like their own shows. Rampage would just be an afterthought on ROH Club, Peacock.
And here's a thought too. If they merge, and I don't know, even without the merging, I mean, looking at the product, if they're sold to certain people with WWE, you're only going to see certain superstars on certain shows, especially when they do overseas stuff, because a lot of the superstars aren't going to travel. But also with the merge, I mean, that's a lot of programming for the week. With wrestling, that's not a lot of time for. I mean, you look at like AEW, you got those wrestlers that at least get some breaks in there. They're not wrestling like on the road for 365 days. Whereas WWE, those guys are on the road constantly. Because they're doing Raw, they're doing NXT, they're doing SmackDown, they're doing house shows, they're doing pay-per-view. Those guys are constantly on the road.
Yeah.
And so you merge those two together, and you're going to get people that A, are going to leave because they're not going to be used, or B, you're going to get so much overworked that their careers are just going to be like, I'm tired. Like, I'm on the road too much.
I guess that's what's a scary thought when Connor brought that up. And
it's not going to end well. This is a huge, if he does this, like, it'll be one, like, this would be bigger than WCW and WWE does this be bigger than that. Like, kind of you merged them, but this is even bigger, I feel like. And Mr. Man being involved with it, with Tony Khan being Vince's boss, that'd be weird. But that's just, it's not going to be well for anyone. Because AEW was a second option for fans and wrestlers. If they didn't want to go to WWE, they always had that second option. Now they won't have that second option. It'd be WWE again. You just have that one thing, and that's it. That's all you have. And if Tony comes, I don't want to say it on here, but I don't know. If you see my Twitter, you probably know. I would no longer.
Yeah, it would just ruin you.
I would no longer. These 3-4 years. These 3-4 years.
Shad and Tony, I mean, especially Shad Khan, they already own, Tony owns AEW Ring of Honor. Shad owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, a soccer team. Like, they own a lot of stuff that they put a lot of investment in, and they should just be happy. Like, that's just another undertaking they would do if they merged WWE with them. That's just a lot.
It just wouldn't work unless they brought like help in.
That's another thing, is they were talking about bringing in a third person with Shad and Tony.
Yeah,
Freddie.
Like, these 3-4 years would be pointless. I got into AEW because I wanted an alternative. I wanted something different, something I didn't have to worry about WWE anymore. I didn't want to watch that anymore. I'm never going to get those two shows combined. It was stupid. But I would probably never be a wrestling fan again. I hate to say about so more wrestling stuff. It would just be a tough time because I don't know what I do with my life.
I agree.
I don't know what my interest is.
I think if AEW buys WWE, I might turn away from pro wrestling again, or I might just go to Impact and watch Impact more.
Yeah, that's my other option. But if not that, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what my interests will be anymore. Like, wrestling is what I think about every day of the week. Even though sometimes I complain, sometimes I still watch wrestling.
Yeah. I think what's hard about it is, sorry.
I also hope Tony listens to his hardcore fans and really listen to what got them in AEW. And because realistic, I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for AEW. I don't know. All my favorite TV shows are ending. I don't know what interests I would have anymore. Like, what would I like?
I think that's what the hard part is with Tony buying it. a lot of us like AEW. Yes, it's different. It has the pro wrestling side, the sports entertainment side of it, and looking at it, I know, of course, like we were talking about this in our group chat where Tony majored in financial studies. Like he's a very smart guy when it comes to analytics, when it comes to money and finances and sports in general. And I don't want this to happen because it's like a wrestling figure collector. Just use that as an example. I have, like I said, we have figures, at least I do, and a lot of other fans. We have figures from both companies. And yes, you know what? Yes, there's so many dream matches to have, like Seth Rollins versus Kenny Omega. You have, having modern day Jericho go against Roman Reigns. Like, yes, like that, those kind of sound fun, but they're just fantasy booking. And like I said, with those coming to fruition, it would take away that charm that, really both companies have. Because then you'd have like I said, it would just, to be honest with you, it would not work out well for both companies. Like, the only thing I said, it just wouldn't.
A lot of people are thinking about the dream match, but the bigger picture of it, like there'd be no competition. There'd be nothing. There'd be nothing to really. I don't know how I say it.
No, I know. I can kind of say what you're trying to say. There'd be that no rivalry of promotions, and like we've been talking about earlier, and Ku can contest it. I mean, you look at the territories, they were still battling, but at the same time, they were still having the people from different territories showing up in other territories, and you wouldn't get that if you merge both of them together. You wouldn't get the whole, the forbidden door, as you would call it. And, those dream matches will just be like, well, yeah, they could still happen if they don't merge. They would just have to do business with each other. They don't have to merge as one company. If I'm telling you right now, if Vince didn't come back, I can guarantee you at some point down the line that Stephanie and Nick and Triple H would have been like, yeah, let's do business with AEW. Like, let's do some cross promotional stuff. I mean, you're looking at WWE. Yeah. WWE's already doing some stuff with New Japan. I mean, they let Carl go, Anderson go over there, so it's like they're cool with New Japan, and I feel like at some point that they can do business with Tony and AEW, but merging them together, you kind of take away that kind of feel.
Like I said, it felt like for a while, like it was a monopoly. And I feel like I said, if Tony Khan did buy WWE, and like I said, it would just destroy what they've built and the empire that Tony has made, and the fans. Like it would just go back to where it was, 5, 6, 7, 8 ago.
We're just taking back steps. If WWE bought by Sav, yes, AEW gets some, but a lot of times we'll go to, and if this happened, Impact would be a lot of people's choice, even for talent.
Yeah,
Impact. I mean, I can see Impact or NWA gaining a lot of talent if Saudi bought WWE.
Because anything with anything Vince involved, I don't think Moxley will be there. I don't know, or maybe New Japan Pro Wrestling, AA, CMLL,
AAA, CMLL.
Adam, because 100 is correct. We're better off it. Yeah,
you got to keep them like the Offspring says, you got to keep them separated. I mean, you have to. I mean, that it not only is it just it's also style. Like WWE's sports entertainment, and AEW trouts itself as a pro wrestling programming. I mean, you would be killing that two different styles of pro wrestling if you merge them.
They said it would just,
I don't want to answer that right now. I don't want to.
Yeah, we're like, that's
we don't want to think about that.
Yeah, no, so we're not focused on that. Like, to be honest with you, I think Saudi Arabia or Fox. I feel like those are the two that I think are more serious about it.
Boy, would have killed the move, David, with that last question.
Dang, David.
You could have bought everything.
What if Tony? He bought Chipotle, guys. Let's go.
He bought Twitter.
See,
turning into Elon Musk.
I thought there you
Oh, that's a good question.
Sami Zayn.
Sammy off the bat.
The
Sammy
women-
Zayn.
Zayn.
Ali.
all the women for
Uh,
sure. I would think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if they would leave, but you would see less and less women matches for sure.
Yeah, that. I don't know.
It's one of those things
I-
that
I
sorry,
miss
like
2022. I miss 2022. This year sucks already, but for AEW most part, program wise, it's been pretty good. Just if Dave Meltzer, I wish Dave Meltzer would retire.
Dave Meltzer needs to go right for ESPN. He's
Because he blocked
ridiculous.
me. He blocked me because I said that a lot of the stuff he posts is false. And it was about the William Regal stuff, and William Regal said he was false. And then he blocks me, which is fine.
Well, it's like this. He just gets reports and they're not credible. Instead of fact checking them and making their credible sources, writes it up, puts it out. I used to like Dave Meltzer. I liked what he had to take on matches, but
And then he was the one saying this whole time that Mercedes is coming to AEW, and he even said like Tuesday she's coming, and then
fans got
Yes.
overhyped for that one. Blame the
Yeah.
fans on that one. That wasn't AEW's fault. That was all the fans. And that's and I think that's kind of the other issue too. Kind of going back kind of to what the Coog was saying. We were talking about the different things going on. Fans these days just don't care about wrestling like they did back in the 80s and the 70s. Like, we have us hardcore fans, but they overbook themselves. They overbooked it to where it's like, if this happens, great. If it doesn't happen, boo this man. It's like, it's just a very I think it's very toxic of us. Like, it doesn't feel like they're passionate about the wrestling. They're just passionate about the backstage drama, the backstage politics. Because think about it, Adam Cole's story, his should be the biggest thing going on this week. But no, ever since Vince came back, the only thing we're talking about, thanks to freaking Vincent Kennedy McMahon again, is we're talking about the WWE and a sell. And you had Adam Cole come back. You have Jay White's contract that's coming up. And he's talking to promotions like AEW, WWE. We should be talking about, where's he going to show up? Is he going to show up? Is he going to renew? Like, we should be getting a very positive buzz about that. Or especially with Adam Cole. Like, Adam Cole coming back from 2 major concussions, where he, like I said, last night what he said was, it's got to be true. Like, what he was speaking. It's very sad to see that we're more concerned on the dirt sheets and the toxicity, especially with we've only been 2 weeks into 2023, and it's already toxic again.
And it's all been. And Vince McMahon's made it. He's made it this. Like, he's the cause of all this.
The most selfish man in wrestling.
And I believe one of the shareholders in WWE is ready to sue Vince.
Well, because he threatened. Like, did you see his threat that he did? Like, he threatened to pull the TV rights away from Fox and from USA, and just burn the motherfucker to the ground.
He'd do it too if he didn't get his way.
No, that's I'm like, dude, and he got bad
do it.
advice for leaving. Dude, like, you seriously should just retire, enjoy your car collection. You already have amount of money that you're getting. And think about it. I put out a good statement the other day about this. Dude, you have, WWE morale was up. Okay, people were coming back to the product. You saw the decline in AEW ratings. People were going back to WWE. You seriously, could have had a chance to make more money, but now because of this, you want to be selfish, sell the company. And like I said, really the only 2 companies that probably could match it, actually 3, would be Saudi, Disney, or Fox. It's just crazy.
Well, I think, you read his press release too, Vince McMahon's press release. It was all I, and me. He's saying, I don't think this company is sustainable and can make a sale unless I'm there. Like he didn't even give that confidence to his board and all the people he left behind in charge of it. Like
His
he
own
just said,
family.
"No, I like the power," and that's been Vince, man. I mean, yeah, that's Vince McMahon. You know, I'm not going to take anything away from the man, like because I mean he built something. Like I mean, I'll agree. I mean, he took it from his dad and he made something. He made it a global phenomenon. You know, he is pretty much the grandfather of, you know, building a phenomenal global pro wrestling sports entertainment company. But, you know, later in his days, he fell off that track and, you know, I mean, as he got older, he made dumb decisions, both personally and creatively. You know, it's like, dude, you're starting to lose your way. You know, like it is time for you to move on. Let someone else take this company over. You know, let's see what it looks like.
He wants to get the last laugh out of it. He has.
I think so too.
And he doesn't trust his son-in-law. He doesn't trust his daughter.
Oh like, no! Like
you literally, is Nick Khan. Like literally, that's.
It's not a McMahon.
It's not McMahon.
Well, here's the funny thing is Stephanie was ready to actually step away for a while. You know, before that whole the allegations. I can't even speak. Allegations began. And then that happened. She had to step in as co-CEO.
Like,
so I mean, if you listen to Busted Open, I think Justin LaBar said it best the other day because they do that segment, that spar with LaBar. He said they asked him if he was shocked by Stephanie stepping down. He goes, no. He goes, not as much. He goes, because she was ready to step away for a while before Vince somewhat retired. He says, I think the day that we'll be shocked is when we hear Triple H stepping away. That's when the shit's gonna hit the fan. If Vince ever gets his hand on creative again, you could kiss that whole product goodbye.
It's gonna be interesting. Like it's gonna be interesting to see what happens for sure. So yeah, well, that's gonna do it for tonight's podcast. Like I said, it was great to talk about what got us into All Elite Wrestling, and then also, of course, we wanted to talk about controversy. Sorry, Connor, go ahead.
This sounds really bad, but I'd rather talk about CM Punk drama than this.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's crazy. Like, because at least CM Punk, there's a lot of positive opportunities that could come out of this.
This is like World War III, and this is World War III in wrestling.
Yeah, it seriously is. It's like, no, you are absolutely 100% correct. It's crazy. I have never seen anything like this.
I agree.
Yeah, Coog, I agree. Especially wrestling fans on social media. Good Lord, man, they are so toxic. Like, I hate reading wrestling message boards. Like, I'm just like, can you guys just stop? Like, what are we, high schoolers? Like, if you don't like something, you don't like it. Like, that's it. Like, find something else. Don't come on a board and be like, oh, this sucks. That's why this is better. It's like, no, you're not helping the situation.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct on that, Adam. And I'm glad that we have a platform to, give our opinion for sure. And I love, it's giving us a lot of opportunities, but yeah, like I said, it's a lot of it's now, it's at least, or the ones that are kind of into light are the ones that are negative. It feels like that's all you see on social media. That's all you see on Twitter, on Instagram, YouTube, depending on what channel you subscribe to. It's just, it's hard when you go, there was a show that I used to like, and then it just goes into complete toxicity about, I don't mind a modern criticism to AEW. That's fine because we criticize it, but this is the What Culture Gang. I was listening to their show today and I'm like, you guys, if this was happened 2 or 3 years ago, you guys would be talking how great one of the segments from last night was. But no, like you completely bashed it instead of just taking what it was. Like it's just one of those things that, like, I get, we all have opinions and that's fine, but it's also on how you present those opinions and if it's a good criticism or a good, option on what happened and a good opinion. Like, I'll Discord with anybody, and we do this all the time on the show. And unfortunately, there's times it gets heated, but at the end of the day, we're at least gonna listen to what you guys as a listener and what us as hosts have to say to each other. We're not, like I said, we're not gonna go on after this and say, oh, AEW was so bad last night because Monet didn't make her debut. Like, we're not gonna do that. Like, last night's show was great. And unfortunately, like I said, it gets overshadowed because fans overbook things. They take people like Dave Meltzer, Jim Cornette, they take, instead of having somebody that has a good insight on both opinions and staying neutral in the matter, they go off and believe everything these guys, what they have to say is gold. The thing is, you can get bad reports all the time.
I feel like fans fantasy booked what they thought was going to happen in real life. Their fantasy is what was going to happen. Like
fickle fans.
Fickle.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out to you guys, to everybody watching. Stay off the dirt sheets. Yeah. Just have your own opinion. Don't go to dirt sheets. Don't listen to these false reports by Meltzer and by Cornette and these third-party journalists who think they know. They don't. Just watch the product and have your own opinion on it. I mean, that's basically what I did. I stay off the dirt sheets. I have to. I enjoyed WWE for a while, and then the product just soured out on me, and I went towards AEW because it has what I want. Not to say that I hate WWE. I will never say I hate WWE because, people like it, and that's their flavor. I just prefer AEW over WWE. I mean, it's just it. So it's stay off the boards and stop bashing each other. Stop bashing companies.
Yeah.
Just let them do what they do. And if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. If you don't, you don't.
I think I'm going to take your advice because now NBC is reporting Tony Khan and WWE and stuff. NBC and Fox is now.
I don't know, man. But I think, like I said, let's just watch how it goes and then let's not worry about it until the time comes. Because, like I said, let's still enjoy it. Let's enjoy the wrestling. Like I said, we'll touch bases more, of course, on our watch-alongs, and we'll probably, if there's an update, we'll probably talk about it next week on our show as well with Talking Elite. But like I said, if when the time comes, we'll figure something out, and but at the same time, it's all speculation. Nothing's been set in stone. Yeah. Nick and Vince right now are listening to different, pitches. Like I said, this I'm going to bring Busted Open back open because they're probably one of my most reliable sources. But what Tommy Dreamer was saying earlier was that this is going to be a 3 to 6 month process. It's not going to happen just overnight. Like we had that Saudi Arabia scare. So, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I don't think Vince is going to sell to Tony Khan, even with the money. I think it's too much of a pride thing. So, we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. And like I said, we'll keep you guys posted because you guys are in the same loop as we are when it comes to information. And like I said, Connor will post things on and retweet things on socials. I'll post them if you follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you guys posted as well. But it's just one of those things that until it happens, let's just stay afloat, stay positive, and just keep watching All Elite Wrestling because I still believe in it. Damn it, I still believe.
Damn it,
it's still real to me. It's still real. But on a serious note, like I'm just gonna I told Connor yesterday in the group chat and Adam, I am not focused right now on ratings, even though we did have a good jump in ratings last night. But
well, here's the thing about that. And real quick, quick, AEW made the promise when they signed on to do Dynamite and all that. Their promise was at least a steady 500,000 viewers at least a week, and they have constantly done that, and they will never drop below that.
Like I said, until we hit that threshold.
I think they did it one time, because it was Dynamite at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's something different. But they've
special and not happens all the time.
They've exceeded expectations on for a smaller company. Well, not smaller, but it's still a young company, just 3-4 years old.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
so we're still young. The Q actually brought up a very good, comment. If you want to pull that up real quick, Connor.
Is it this one?
So yeah, so he put basically AW is like the freshman year in college right now. They want an easy A without having to burn the midnight oil and study hard to earn a grade and earn the degree. Yep, I see it every day. Like I said, it's one of those things that we're still like pretty young as a company, and especially like I said, we don't have not yet, anyways. We don't have the from the 80s on, or even just like the probably late 70s with Vince McMahon's company. We don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have that growth and that and even then they've dropped off quite a bit since the heyday. But we don't have, like I said, we don't have the years and years and years yet. So hopefully, like I said, if we'll just hopefully things will keep the two products separate, and if AEW can keep performing to where they're making people happy at TBS and TNT and Warner Brothers or whoever owns TBS at the time of recording, as long as they keep them happy and they keep putting on good product, because like I said, we had 960,000 viewers last night. The average, Connor actually had a good chart. I think he has it on his social, but or if you could pull it up now, but we've constantly been at 80,000 for the last since everything happened at Brawl Out. And
but they've still been able to make that pay-per-view a memorable pay-per-view. We're still talking about it to this day.
Well, even then, like I said, they didn't put on a bad pay-per-view last year. Yes, you had a little bit of a sourness to it, and all the drama that's kind of really it put a lot of pressure on AEW, and I feel like we're in a good spot, and I feel like we're making up for what happened. But like I said, I'm excited for what's going to happen in the future, and if we can keep AEW and WWE separate, I don't want the cons buying it. If we can keep that separate and just have your main sports entertainment and your pro wrestling, I think we'll be fine. And like I said, if you like both, great. So good.
I don't have yesterday's ratings on here, but
yeah,
I'll do every episode of Dynamite and Rampage. I have. Let's
see, pull it up real quick, and we'll get ready to sign off.
I don't know which. I believe it was 960.
Yeah, it was 960,000 last night.
Yeah, it was pretty 967, 960.
Well, that's still a boost from last week, so, for sure.
Yeah, by at least 100,000.
It's a huge boost. Come on, where's that?
Well, you also got to think about it too. Why Connor's getting that pulled up. Adam Cole coming back, the holidays are over, football season's kind of winding down. You have the NBA, going on, but like I said, I think we'll start getting back. I think if we can say at least in the 900,000, I think that'll be okay. But like I guess before my Connor's getting that pulled up, but I was just getting so tired of everybody talking about how AEW is in trouble and screwed because they dropped, by 200,000 people since, everything happened last year. But I'm not worried about the ratings. As long as the show is putting a smile on my face, giving me great matches week in, week out, because the matches aren't suffering. A couple of storylines here and there and maybe overusage of certain, JAS members, but other than that, I'm just enjoying the show. And I feel like that's kind of why I haven't been so down with watching AEW or so down on the product in general, just because it's still giving me a smile and it's still giving me a chance to forget about the world, sit down, talk with my friends, and watch wrestling. And that's why I love Talking Elite.
For some reason, it's not letting me pull it. It's not letting me pull it up, but I have the chart right here. So I guess I'll go the last 6 weeks. Or I'll go over the last episode, like the very first episode, CM Punk and when they vacated Charles and all that. They had 1.038 million, 0.33 in demo. The next week, 983,000, 752,997. Last, 840, 950, 957, 976, and 864 was last Wednesday. But last night they bumped up big time to a 967,000 rating, which was their best since episode 160, and we're on 171 now. And their demo bumped up to a 0.33. So they got their best numbers since a few months. So that's a big increase for AEW.
Yeah. Like I said, like I said, we're getting back up there, folks. And I feel like hopefully with the promise of Monet won't hurt it. I think everything happening with Vince, I think people are going to start coming back. It's going to, and I'll have to start watching more AAA, Coog. And us too. I'm so happy.
We're going to do that. We're going to do that with like Adam said, like old, not like old school, like
the watch party of old school wrestling.
Like we're going old school, not like Ultimate Warrior Randy Savage. We're going old school.
Like 70s.
Let's do it. Yeah,
like
let's do it.
80s, yeah.
Let's do it, guys. All right. Well, that's going to be it tonight for Talking Elite. I want to thank everybody at home for listening. Thank you, Coog, Mike, David, you guys and Ethan. You guys it's always great to have you guys commenting. Always puts a smile on my face. Also, thank you to Connor and thank you to Adam. Thank you guys so much for being here again this week. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talk wrestling with you guys. So thank you guys so much for commenting. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Get as many people as you can to our weekly streams. Talking Elite, our Dynamite, Rampage watch-alongs. Connor and Mr. Jacobs are doing a great WCW Monday night special where they have gone back and have gone in order and watched a lot of the awesome WCW Nitros. They have a lot of great opinions on the matches being on there. And they also did a really good one from this past Monday. So go back, watch that. We have a card break up on there. If you want to go watch me and Connor rip open an AEW box. We're, like I said, I'm a little new to the card game, but it was a lot of fun. So go look at that as well. Connor and I have a draft special getting ready to come up here very shortly. So look out for that because it's going to be sparking our new show. So stick to our socials for updates on that. Make sure you guys go on to Twitter and like us at All Elite Zone 1. While you're there, also check out our personal profiles. Subscribe, message us. Let us know how you guys like the show, or if you guys just want to reach out and say hi. I will gladly appreciate and love you guys back and talk wrestling with you guys just as much as I do my favorite knuckleheads in this group. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us on Spotify and Podbeam. Like I said, we are growing. Currently, we do have 302 subscribers on YouTube. And our audience is just growing and growing. So thank you guys so much for watching. Connor, Adam, do you guys have anything to close us off with?
Just watch. Just keep watching. Just keep watching AEW. It's going to be a good 2023. And just enjoy the product. I mean, just enjoy it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like Adam said it right. That sums it up.
Yep.
No said.
All right. Before we close this off, join us next week. Our topic will be pandemic wrestling. We're going to discuss some of our favorite moments and how they could have been different if it wasn't for the pandemic on next week's episode. And with whatever craziness happens in the sport of professional wrestling, because right now it's like everybody's on coffee and Mountain Dew and crack all at once with all the news that's been coming out. So, check out Talking Elite next week. We'll have a great conversation, of course. Thank you guys again for watching, and we will see you guys next Thursday.
Peace out, guys.